Good morning, everyone. It's good to see y'all.
Good morning, Jess Riley. Thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate it. Let me get us started. Welcome to the third day of Professional Development Week, hosted by the Social Work Student Association. They've coordinated all of our events for the past, today being the third day, with the University of Oklahoma, of course, and in Henry Zero School of Social Work. This is a CEU eligible event. So for practitioners who are here today, you'll want to know about that. I see lots of our previous students. I'm with the school myself, and I'm so proud of all of you, and I'm glad to be here. So when you do your CEUs, you'll need to be sure to use your full name on your Zoom profile account. We have many people who have registered for these 3 days. The turnout has been phenomenal, and that will be a little challenging to keep up with. So full names only, please. And I will post the link to your evaluation at the end of the session. Jess Riley, let me introduce you now. Jess received her BSW with a minor in political science in 2021 from St. Edward's University in Austin, Texas. Jess is actually here with us from NASW, Texas, which is a huge head office for the entire state of Texas with all of their branches. And she does a lot of work, and she's traveled all the way through Zoom to be here with us today in Oklahoma. She's a community organizer with a background in grassroots campaigning, voter mobilization, policy advocacy, personal passion for housing, transportation, food access, lots of issues going on down in Austin, and a community engagement coordinator for NASW Texas. But she also works to connect social work students and practitioners to NASW, legislative advocacy, professional development resources, and she's here today to talk to you about those things. When she's not working, you can find Jess eating good food, laughing with friends, hiking on her trail with her wiener dog Bean. All right, love that bio. Thank you, Jess. Are you ready to share with us today? Super. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for that introduction. It's great to be on here with everyone today, just to talk a little bit about membership. And so I'm just going to kick it off and kind of continue that introduction just to give kind of my background and how I got to the association, especially for any kind of meso-macro folks in the room who are trying to figure out where they fit in, maybe as a community organizer or policy-minded human in the world of social work. I actually started as an undergraduate intern doing my practicum with NASW Texas, and essentially did a social work thing. I saw a gap and I said, this needs to be filled. And that intervention came in the form of a personnel creation. So I actually created my own job with the chapter as a student engagement coordinator originally, and then I'm now full-time for the rest of the community of social workers that we serve as well. And so that being said, I'm very passionate about student engagement, and I think that y'all are some of the most important members that we have. For those of you who are members and potential members as well. So if you are interested in connecting, this PowerPoint will be shared after, and I'd absolutely love it if anyone wants to send me a LinkedIn request or anything like that. I always love to stay connected. Awesome. Now I want to get to know y'all, and I know that y'all are probably dropping your, I guess, info and names in the chat already for CEs, but I would love to just be able to read through this later and also just kind of create space for introductions. If y'all are classmates, you might know each other, but I am honestly, you never know your classmates as well as you think you do. So don't forget to connect while in school, because as soon as you graduate, you'll realize you didn't get anyone's LinkedIn and you didn't get anyone's professional networking information because it was all in the context of school. So this is a good opportunity to do that. Oh, yes, sorry, I went back to. And so if anyone wants to share kind of, I guess everyone's probably in Norman, but there might be, oh yeah, Tulsa, there's other campuses on here, I forgot. Great, everyone share your campus that you're at, or if you're in the online program, area of practice if you want, if you're practicing, feel free to share anything about your population or anything like that. But I really love for y'all to kind of just connect with each other and use the space productively. And I'm gonna drop this prompt in the chat, and then we're gonna keep moving. Done. And so keep doing that. while we're through. Want to make sure everyone introduces themselves. Some other housekeeping for the session today. I just wanted to say that I love seeing cameras on. I like to try and, have my my square up with as many people as I can see, just to connect with people. The virtual space can be really difficult to make those connections, and so I hope that y'all are able to do that. Mute unless speaking. However, I am going to ask y'all some questions and try to have a conversation about some of the resources that we provide. And if we are talking, I like the hand raise function. That works for me. And as I said, the PowerPoints are available afterwards, and that is because the slides are dense. I'm not going to read everything on the slide, but I would love for this to be a take-home resource that y'all can look at and reference later if you had kind of a question or wanted to find a link, or wanted to learn more about anything we go over today. And so I wasn't sure if there were CEs associated with this actually, so I just put these in here just in case. But I also think for those who are not licensed and not seeking continuing education, it's just good practice to have kind of an example of maybe, some things to keep in mind as you do graduate and enter the workforce and have to attend CE events. There would typically be learning objectives that you have to pay attention to and really kind of report on at the end of it. So the first that I'm hoping y'all will walk away with is that you will be able to learn about the association nationally and the Oklahoma chapter. I am obviously from Texas, but here representing them in good faith. And the second is to identify benefits from NASW membership, obviously, and then 2 advocacy programs and or initiatives, and at least 1 upcoming event. So that's what I'm hoping you'll get away from it. You'll learn about it generally, you'll understand how it benefits you through membership, you'll hear about our advocacy, and know what's coming up next. So just to start off with an overview of the association. And so I think, there's typically mixed knowledge about this. Some people feel like they have a good understanding, but some people kind of haven't really heard anyone talk about it before, except for maybe a single professor or so. But essentially, so NASW is real old, founded in 1955 by a merging of 7 different social work organizations, and it's now the largest professional membership association for social workers in the US. There are other professional membership associations for social workers, but we are by far the oldest and the biggest. And essentially, our goals as an association are to invest in our members' professional growth and development, helping social workers be better social workers to influence and impact their communities in, enhanced positive ways, right? Secondly, maintaining those professional standards of practice that goes along with that, not just investing in individual members' professional development, but really kind of maintaining best practice for the profession overall. Social work has to be agile in order to be influential in the communities that we serve. And so we need to be collective in that agility, right? And move forward with the profession as society evolves, as our understanding evolves, as our knowledge increases about social dynamics and the human environment, et cetera. The third is prioritizing member voices in that decision-making process. So just to kind of contextualize, I think that sometimes people think about NASW as this huge organization that's made up of all of these staff. I think that is a little bit of a misconception, especially at the chapter level, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But just so y'all know, Oklahoma chapter is one man. His name is Stephen Ferris, and he's wonderful. And he does the entire Oklahoma chapter by himself. Our Texas chapter, which is enormous in membership, I am one of 5 people who work in this tiny office in a house in downtown Austin. And so really, when we think about how large the association is, it's not about paid employees. It's literally about members and volunteer leaders and people who've stepped up to really make our mission a reality. And so we do everything through membership. And I love that because it holds us accountable to make sure that we're actually, putting our money where our mouth is, right? If we're going to be, doing what we say we are, we have to make sure that we're listening to the people and the social workers that we work with. And then, of course, the last is advancing those social policies that align with our professional values and code of ethics through advocacy at the local level, the state level, the national level, with governmental bodies, and through public education. So that is generally what we do. And I think that sometimes that's a question people start with is, what do we even do? So professional development and advocacy, to sum it up. And I just explained all of that, but I'm going to have y'all watch this short video because I think it's really cute and it explains exactly what I just said in a engaging way.
There's no sound.
Connect with colleagues or amplify your voice for the causes you care about. NASW has you covered. We keep you on track to make the most of your career and offer discounts on continuing education, scholarly publications, and conferences to help you stay current in the profession. We help you protect your practice with free legal and ethics consultations, HIPAA resources, discounted liability insurance, risk management education, and code of ethics training. NASW keeps you connected with social workers nationwide, with local and national in-person events and online communities. We advocate for you in the workforce and on behalf of clients, communities, and society on social justice issues. Grow and thrive with NASW.
All right. I just think that just sums it up real well. And as much as I talk about it, that really is just a good pitch. All right. So I feel like I like to have this slide. I know it looks overwhelming and I'm not going to actually read everything, but I think it helps to kind of identify what we mean when we say like advocate for you and advocate for social justice issues. Like, what does that mean? And NASW is a national organization, like I said, it's been around for quite a while. And in that time, we have had a lot of time to do a lot of awesome things. And so a couple that I want to point out are our contributions to the National Voting Rights Act of 1965, the establishment of the Affordable Care Act in 2009, all the way up until recent years in the opposition of immigration detention and child separation. NASW has been at the forefront of a lot of those conversations. And even the first one, back to the civil rights movement, we had national lobbyists, at the US Capitol involved in the right side of history. And so I think that that's something that is almost intangible when we think about the power of collective action through NASW and really kind of involving the entire social work profession in these issues to call people to action in a meaningful way. And so this is just a very quick snapshot of a few things that the National Organization Association has done. And if y'all are interested in learning more about all of the things that we have been, contributed to throughout history, but also just like the history of the social work profession, if you ever kind of want to dig into that a little bit more, I know that you're in school and are probably social worked out after hours, but if you wanted to take the time, there is an interactive timeline of the social work profession on the NASW website. And it kind of just walks you through in an interactive timeline. So I wanted to point that out, that if anyone wants to visit that after the fact, this is clickable. So, okay, so let's talk about the chapter, because that was a snapshot essentially of the national organization. But the national organization is a parent organization of all these like independently run chapters, right? And so there are 55 state chapters across the United States, and Oklahoma is one of them. So the Oklahoma chapter is one of the smaller chapters, but it is relative, right? It's still about 1,000 members, which is a lot. And it is still the most prominent professional social work organization in the state. NASW OK has numerous regions, committees, member leadership opportunities, and the structure allows NASW to better serve the social work community and clients. If you are a member and aren't sure what region you're in, I absolutely encourage y'all to visit this NASWOK.com/leadership. And there's basically just like a list of counties that tell you who your regional representative is. If you're at the Norman campus, you're Cleveland County. If you're at the Tulsa campus, I forgot what the region is, but just look into it, because I really believe that the most impactful part of NASW is the local connection. And so I really want to encourage y'all, if you do join, if you're already a member, to really get involved to see how you can support the local organizing efforts of your region. And the mission statement. So I'm just going to read this verbatim because it kind of helps conceptualize the goal of the chapter. So NASW OK is a membership organization with a dual mission to promote, develop, and protect the practice of social work and social workers, and seek to enhance the effective functioning and well-being of individuals, families, and communities through its work and through its advocacy. And so that essentially is what we just talked about through other things. The chapter is implementing that at the local level always. And just a snapshot of the top 5 reasons before we hop in. These are some of the top 5 that we're going to go over. We're going to kind of get into what the actual tangible membership benefits are. I think that there's always this tangible and intangible, the intangible being this like, you believe in the mission of social work and are accountable to the code of ethics, and you want to be a part of this larger movement of social workers trying to do good in the world. But the tangible is also where you get your money's worth, right? The actual resources that you gain through your membership with NASW. But just to overview, community building and networking, professional development, legislative advocacy on behalf of you and including you, financial resources and scholarships, and then that discounted student price. And we're going to talk about the student price later on, but I just want to let y'all know that it is in your best interest, even if you're not ready to join today, to join before you graduate. Because essentially students get an enormous discount on membership at both the BSW and MSW level. It is $60 for the year. Full professionals, it gets up to like above 200. And essentially, if you join as a student, you get an additionally significantly reduced rate for 2 years post BSW and 3 years post MSW. And that transitional membership from school, career to school or school to career, you're only eligible for that if you were a student member while enrolled. So if you wait until after your graduation date to join, you do not get access to that transitional discount, and you're expected to be pay at the professional rate. So I just wanted to push that on y'all just a little bit, that everything you hear today, keep in mind, it's best to join as a student for your future self also. Okay, I just want to pause for a second before we jump into all of the membership benefits. And I would just love to hear from anyone. Is anyone a member on the call? It's okay if not. I just am curious if anyone has their own experience with NASW before we get into some of the details. And you can, awesome. Are you interested in coming off mute to talk about ways that you've engaged with your membership?
Yeah, I just recently joined because I'm a MSW student. And yeah, that was an awesome discount. So I look at just a lot of the updates that are happening, and of course the continuing education. They have a lot of different things that I'm just kind of looking through right now, but it's very informative, and that's kind of one of the reasons I joined it. So.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Chris. That's great. And I think that's kind of the basic, like, that's why I would join too, right? Lots of information, like I get to be up to date, and then continuing education, because if you're maintaining licensure, then that's really important. But I'm glad that you said those, because I think the purpose of this presentation is to go beyond that, to really think about other things that you might not know about your membership. I actually don't talk about CEs much in this presentation because I want it to be accessible for students who are not at that phase yet. But we are basically known we're the CE house. Like, we house and approve, hundreds of online and in-person CE opportunities. Our entire CE Institute is just filled with things that you can click through at the state level, but also the national level. So we're not going to talk about CEs, but just so you know, if you're trying to get CEs, we offer a tracker that is pretty much the only way to do it, unless you are highly organized and reliant on yourself. Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's see, I can't see the top. Okay, networking. So networking with NASW kind of comes out in a couple different ways. In this slideshow, from here on out, I really try to integrate the chapter level and the national resources, just to put it all in one place. But essentially, at the local level, the state level, and the national level, there are opportunities to connect. So annual conferences is a big piece of that. And I know that y'all probably just came off the heels of the NASW OK conference. Did anyone in the room attend that conference? And if you did, I would love for you to come off mute and just tell me how that was, or a session you attended, or anything like that.
I did not attend this year, Jess, but I've attended many, many, many times over the years. And it is an annual event that's wonderful. And has all of those networking opportunities. Used to always have a jewelry lady there that sold jewelry, and that was one of the reasons to attend. But that's a fun place to network too, is over the jewelry and the coffee and the sessions.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing that. And I think that that's the beauty of conference too, is there's so much amazing information and, critically acclaimed research and all sorts of things that go into the sessions. But the real beauty of conference is that in between time, right? The meeting other social workers who practice in the same field as you, while getting coffee and looking at handmade jewelry. So I love that. Other kind of, so that's annual for NASW Oklahoma, but there's also basically annual conferences all over. So if y'all wanted to go crazy, probably go to Oklahoma, Texas, and national. But you're absolutely, as a member, have access to all of those. And as a non-member, honestly, but I will say the member price discount is worth it. So if you're a conference person and you're trying to kind of get engaged in that, definitely worth the membership. But webinars and in-person meetings is also a big piece of the programming at NASW. I think the virtual emerging, okay, great. I think that the emerging kind of virtual world is really helping us connect better. And so there are a lot of national things that probably weren't kind of housed by national that are now being done that way. And that's really wonderful. Other aspects to networking that I want to talk about. So first of all, I'm just going to hop to the right on the leadership opportunities. I don't have an application link or anything to share with y'all right now. I'm actually not sure where NASW OK is with their board election process. But on the board of directors for NASW Oklahoma, there are guaranteed student representative spots. So if you're someone who you're going to be a student for another year or maybe even two, please consider that and put it on your radar as an opportunity, because it is an amazing resume builder. And especially if you are interested in basically just, being more engaged with NASW, that is the dedicated students voice in the association at the chapter level. So represent your fellow students, advocate for the rights of students, for the engagement of students, and be a part of those conversations because it's critical. So just encouraging anyone who has an itch to get a little bit more involved. And the last aspect of networking, student networking especially, that I want to talk about is the MyNASW community. So MyNASW is a member-only online forum that is basically your profile is automatically created as soon as you become a member. So every member of NASW is a member of MyNASW. I know that was a lot of NASWs in a row, but it is honestly, I learn more about it all the time, and I've been using it for years. But essentially, the two things I want to bring attention to are the all-member forum, where the 100,000 plus members of NASW are all put into one community, and you can ask questions and read threads and ask for advice and connect and network and look through the member directory. And basically, it's all housed within this safe kind of third-party platform. And it's a wonderful way to engage with other members across the country. And the other thing I wanted to point out is the student community. So this I actually created as an intern because I thought that we needed it. So I'm a huge advocate for the student community, and still technically the administrator for it, even though I don't really do that anymore. It's kind of self-run at this point. But that is specifically students loaded into that. So professional members who are not student members do not have access to that community. So especially if you're just looking for a space to connect with other students about the experiences that you're having and support during school, that's an amazing place to do that. But I just wanted to point that out, that I think that they're underutilized, and I would really like to see more members getting what they pay for. Okay, so legislative advocacy. Legislative advocacy is obviously a huge part of what we do at NASW. And the first thing I want to talk about is the statewide lobbying and politics that have been going on. And I kind of just touched base with Stephen about this to kind of hear what they were up to. And these are a few things that he shared with me that he wanted to pass along. So first of all, for the next 2 years, the priority of NASW Oklahoma, one of the main priorities, is to reduce the regulatory requirements to enter the profession by eliminating entry exams for BSW and MSW applicants. That is huge. And I'm hoping that many of you are kind of tuned in at least a little bit to the landscape that we're navigating around the ASWB exam and some of the data that came out about, I guess I would say, questioning its fair and impartiality, especially on the lines of gender, race, age. I mean, it is shocking. First language, the disparities in the pass rates is something that needs to be addressed. And I'm really proud of the Oklahoma chapter for taking the strong stance on it, because I know that other chapters are kind of navigating it in different ways, but eliminating entry exams is huge. And especially for people who've had to, take inequitable, exactly, take the exam, 4 or 5 times and pay that the rate every single time. It's incredibly disenfranchising and at that point as well, and demoralizing. So anyways, that's going to be a priority for the next couple of years, is really fighting for that. In addition, a lot of our chapters, including NASW Oklahoma, has been highly engaged at the Texas, or at the Texas Ledge, at the state ledge, fighting against bills that harm queer people, LGBTQIA and Two-Spirit folk. And it's highly important that social workers are involved in those conversations, especially when we're talking about the provision of care. Gender affirming care is something that's under attack across the country. And of course, social workers are part of those complex and intentional interdisciplinary care teams that are a part of that, gender affirming care. And so I'm glad to see that Stephen is also being, upfront and fearless about that, because I think it can be a stressful and toxic environment to navigate. And so I'm glad that that's something he's prioritizing, because as we all know, it is a really difficult landscape around LGBTQ plus issues at the Oklahoma Ledge right now, and definitely some major threats to our Okies, our neighbors. And then the last one that is a bit more loaded that I want to talk about is the continued exemption for LCSWs from the Oklahoma State Health Information Network and Exchange. And that is a lot of words that I probably wouldn't understand reading. So I did put a QR code to the statement on specifically the OK Schreier issue to the right, because that really explains what the issue is right now. But this would specifically and mostly impact independent LCSWs and people practicing in private practice. But essentially, there are 3 main issues that I can recall. And one is the massive fines, starting with about $5,000 and ongoing kind of monthly upkeep for that as well. And requiring that of an independent LCSW private practice is ridiculous. There's not really much regulation to the scope of the small business. And so we're definitely going to see that be an issue. The second one is that, what is the other issue? Oh yeah, the second issue is that really the goal of the health information exchange is more about making sure there's not medical malpractice. Social workers LCSWs don't typically do medical alterations or any form of invasive procedures. And so it doesn't actually make sense for us or LCSWs to be held accountable to that health information exchange process and pay all these fines when we're actually not, it doesn't actually achieve the goal that the HIE is attempting to achieve by including LCSWs. And the third is that LCSWs and licensed social workers in general were intentionally left out of basically previous legislation in 2009, which permitted access to enhanced data keeping and records keeping. The technology access for health providers generally did not include LCSWs. And so they're expecting all of this to happen without having basically supported the initial investment in the proper technology for LCSWs to maintain the standards that they're asking. And so those are the 3 main issues with the bill. And if you want to scan the thing and read more about it, Steve put a lot of time into that and wrote some recommendations and options for how to fight that. And the bill text is also linked. So those are the 3 things that are going on right now at the Oklahoma Ledge. And like I said, it's literally one guy. So the executive director for the chapter is also the registered lobbyist, right? So he's also government relations. And so that kind of has to happen all the time. But yeah, so that's, if y'all are interested in advocacy, those are the things that NASW Oklahoma is prioritizing. And then the other thing I wanted to point out was just that there are also national resources. So NASW National also does federal advocacy, right? At the US Capitol. And they actually have a system for signing up for advocacy alerts. And if you just want to do sign up to get notifications about when major federal legislation is moving that you need to contact your representatives about, you can literally send a pre-written email in like 2 clicks, and also put your own testimony if you desire. But I recommend that everyone sign up for that. I really just think it's a really easy way to stay engaged in NASW advocacy, whether or not you're a member. And I'm just going to go ahead and drop this in the chat because I think it's important. Because we are all advocates, regardless of whether you're macro. And I think that I think integrated practice is one of the most important things that we can be doing. So especially if you're working in clinical, especially if you already work with clients, especially if you have a background in any of that, or maybe you're completing your practicum and have, lived experience with a population in that regard, all of that information is expertise. And your representatives need to hear from you as a constituent and bring that expertise to show them, to help them understand, right? So I always say we have to treat our legislators like we do our clients and meet them where they're at. And that's how we're going to be effective advocates, is we just got to social work the heck out of them. All righty. I'm kind of getting close on time, but I'm just going to stop and ask anyway. Is there any particular issue right now that is going on in the Oklahoma legislature that anyone is passionate about or tuned into, especially if it has a connection to social work? Okay, we don't have too many macro people in the room. I'm like, maybe it's just me who obsessively monitors critical race theory. Yes, a lot of attacks on CRT. And that's happening, across teacher pay. Absolutely. Yep. HIE stuff. Great. Thanks, y'all. And keep dropping them in the chat. I really love it. I think it's so important to kind of name the things that you care about so that when they come up, you'll be like, I literally just committed to someone or told someone that I cared about that, right? And then it kind of almost is like a verbal contract to yourself to care or to act or to participate. Good of okay. Awesome. I'm sorry. I don't know how to turn my email notifications off. Okay, let's get through this. So the next one I want to talk about is financial resources. And I think that this is something that is maybe less publicized because it is seen as less important, but I think that for students is especially impactful. So student loan management, we got it. We do national student loan management webinars that help you kind of navigate that. We also have a partner called Savi, and they are phenomenal in navigating student loan aid management, especially PSLF for public service loan forgiveness. I can't give you the rate off the top of my head, but there's it does cost something like a one-time $30 fee, but then they do everything for you. And that only exists through the partnership with NASW. And NASW is one of Savi's oldest and longest partners, and we have the best contract that exists. So I'm just saying that because I sat down a webinar about it. But I just want to point that out, that all of y'all are about to have student loans if you do not already, which you probably already do, some of you. And if you're going to do anything within direct practice social work, it probably qualifies for public service loan forgiveness, and membership with NASW, and then obviously through extension, the partnership with Savi. That is the easiest way to manage all of that, just to make sure that you're paying it on time and you're getting as much money as you can, basically hiring someone to advocate on your behalf with the federal government, to make sure you get the money and the hours for public service that you have contributed. So don't forget that, because I don't think that we talk about how important that is enough. And I really want to make sure that you have access to that resource. Other financial resources include our student liability insurance. So for those of you who have not started your field practicums yet, This is something that is critically important because you're going to need it to do your internship. Scholarships as well. So if anyone is especially considering a doctoral degree, doctoral scholarships and fellowships are something that are especially available through the foundation. However, if you are entering soon an MSW program, if you're BSW entering MSW, there are still opportunities for that as well. Less opportunities at the BSW level, but definitely for those advanced steps. And a whole bunch of discounts and perks. So it's like, we get Office Depot, a huge discount on that. We get like car rental discounts and hotel discounts and all sorts of other things. And I honestly forget to use them, but I should honestly use them more. But that's also something, just like a whole list of discounts, therapy notes, like different systems for practice as well, tools. And career options. So whether you're graduating in a couple of months or whether you have a couple more years to go, it's never too early to start thinking about the transition out of education. So NASW offers our amazing career center, which includes our job link. And the job link is where you can browse and explore an employer exclusive database. For searching for job listings, you can upload your resume to our bank, and then employers can actually sort through our resumes. So it actually goes, it's a two-way operation. We do career development webinars, and we publish and maintain information on current social work salaries so that you can advocate for yourself in the workplace. In addition, the Career Center also has things on interview tips and tricks, resume and cover letter assistance, salary negotiation, kind of tools, tips, guidance, and a career development handbook that kind of encompasses several of those resources as well. So if you are job searching or approaching it, that's something to consider, right? Like, yes, there's LinkedIn, yes, there is Indeed, all of these things, but there's nothing that's really curated towards social work the way that this is. And I really wanted to highlight that for those who may be graduating soon. My computer is going to die, and I really would be embarrassed if I got kicked off. So give me one moment, and I'm going to grab.
Even though we should be able to make her Jess's PowerPoint available, feel free to, take pics. I was going to say of any of that information and those links that she's providing. Hopefully you have done that as you've needed. Okay, it looks like we've got a YouTube channel that will have these posted. That's through the Tulsa Social Work Student Association. We have 3 campuses at University of Oklahoma. We've got Tulsa, the Norman, and the online program. And I am very proud of all of our student leaders and the work that they've done to put this together. Yeah, it looks like she got kicked off for some reason, so I guess she'll be back on in a minute to wrap us up. Anyone have any questions or comments? Is there anything that she is talking about today, that really strikes a chord with you about your own involvement with NASW? Anyone that'd be willing to comment on that? There's 103 of us here today, so maybe someone would be willing to comment on that. I personally have been a member since probably 1986 when I was in the MSW program, but I'm one of those long timers. Anybody else been around a long time, NASW? Ah, Jess is back.
At least I communicated. I called it.
Yeah, you did a good job.
Okay. I'm not going to rename myself. Y'all know who I am. I've been here a little while now. Well, thank you so much for trying to do some conversation in the interim. All right, back at it. So licensure, we literally just talked about how we're going to try to eliminate the exam. Crazy. But until then, we still got to prep for it. So we're not going to take away those resources to prepare in the meantime. So just so y'all know, the prep resources involved with NASW, there are licensure consultations with NASW staff at the national level, and also probably I'm going to volunteer Stephen as well to say that he could probably answer some questions if you had them. I do want to point out that the licensing prep course is coming up. Says Friday, May 12th. For some reason, I think there's also one in April. I don't know if I made that up or not. But just so y'all know, and I'm just going to drop it in the chat for you, because if anyone is prepping for licensure right now, I want to make sure that y'all have access to that prep course. Okay, great. And also just to kind of clarify as well, because I think that these questions come up a lot about, do we provide licensure? No, that's not how that works. So for NASW, or for Oklahoma, the OU-LSW is the one who is a government agency that oversees and administers professional licensure. And I went ahead and just put some resources on there in case anyone has any direct questions for that board. We do advocate for the expedition of the process and licensure backlog, though. Okay, and then I would also love to hear if anyone is actually like pursuing licensure. Like, drop it in the chat. Like, good luck. You know, I just wanted to say that for anyone who's gearing up for that. But let's see. Moving on. Let's talk about professional standards. So obviously everyone's familiar with the Code of Ethics, or you probably should be, but I just wanted to point out a few others that you might not be aware of. So Social Work Speaks is really our collection of policy parameters. The Encyclopedia of Social Work is an online resource that has a ton of different topics, from international issues to ethical standards. It's a bit broader. And then the Research Library, which I think is slept on, honestly. And what I like to talk about when I talk to students is that the Research Library provides what your university currently does and more. And so whenever you lose access to the OU library online, you are going to have to pay for something, a LinkSpringer or a JSTOR or something to have access to peer-reviewed content. And NASW curates all of that. I have never looked for something and not been able to find it. Like, if I'm just kind of searching for something online and I run into a paywall, I just take that DOI, I go to the research library, I look it up, and it's usually there. And so that's included and bundled into your membership. So don't be paying for anything extra. Just know that that's a resource that's consistent to you always. There's also practice standards and like worksheets that can help you in clinical practice specifically, for anyone interested in that, but just kind of best practice one-pagers that will kind of guide you through a new diagnosis or new research, or just make sure that you have like the most informed approach as well. Social work news. So this is wrong. I am not sure if Oklahoma does their own e-news. Probably. I think a newsletter makes sense. But either way, I think that someone actually talked about that already. So that's great. I'm glad that that is existing. We also have the national blog, magazine, the podcast. Any way that you want to receive your social work news, we got it. And let's talk about upcoming events. So all upcoming events through the Oklahoma chapter, you can find at the NASWOK.com website. And I will say, a lot of the chapter websites are really like, they're dinosaurs and they're really hard to use. This chapter's website is actually phenomenal. And so I just want to say that that's one thing for sure Oklahoma has going for it is, how great that is. Dang it, I replaced this with a less overwhelming graphic, and I don't think this is the version. But the other event that I wanted to point out are the National Student Series events. So every single month on the third Thursday at 5 p.m. Central, there will be a national webinar just for students. And I forgot what the upcoming topic is. We just did a student networking one, and I got on and I taught everyone how to use digital business cards. So like, that's an example of like a professional development webinar that would happen. I also led one a couple months ago in October on student organizing for student clubs and like leadership development. But we also have things like, learning about licensure, learning about career fields, hearing about, student loan management. Like, there's all sorts of things, and they're all recorded. So if you go to this student events page, literally you can watch a recording from an entire year plus of programming. They're all on YouTube. They're all free access. Like, nothing is restricted. So just check that out. I think that that's a really amazing resource that we've started. It's a chapter collective effort. So chapters like move up and move back and like lead different webinars every month, and we create a schedule. So it's a multi-chapter effort. Now I'm going to try to get y'all become members. So I talked a lot about membership. And I talked a lot about things we offer outside of membership as well. But I think the biggest thing is that the membership dues that y'all pay, if you pay, right, contribute to everything I just talked about. So yes, you could still technically like find ways to engage with NASW around the $60. And like, that's still great. That's what you can do. We appreciate the engagement. But the membership benefits pay for the website, and they pay for the salary of the person who lobbies on your behalf. And, you know, they go towards programming. They go directly back into the association and the membership. And so being a nonprofit can be tricky. But I always say I would way rather ask a social worker or a social work student for money than the bank down the street. So I would rather be accountable to the people that we're serving and not the people that don't know what we do. So I just wanted to say that to conceptualize and make myself feel better about being a salesperson because I'm a social worker. But just to point out once again, it's $60. And if you join while in school, then you pay reduced dues after graduation as a transitional member. And just to also put it out there, student membership costs less than a cup of coffee a month. Social media is all here. These are all hyperlinked. If you want to review the presentation afterwards, Oklahoma has all of the things. And there you go. Thank you, questions. And look at that. An amazing photo of some Oklahoma folks. And then also all these
back when
contacts.
we were live, back when we met in person.
I know. I think that hopefully that will be revived soon. But like I said, it'll be shared out. So if you have any questions, there's multiple emails for different parts of Oklahoma. We may need to close it out because I think I had till 10:45. Right. But if anyone has any questions for me, I am going to drop my email. I would prefer that you try to connect with Oklahoma chapter and message one of those contacts on that last slide that I sent. However, I'm always available to talk.
Thank you so much, Jess Riley. I know everyone appreciates all that information. That is much more in one package than I have ever heard about NASW, even though I, claim so much longevity, with NASW in terms of my own membership.
That's why they pay me the big bucks.
What?
That's why they pay me the big bucks.
It is, yeah. Okay. Full disclosure, Jess here is our daughter. So anyway, she has a social work gene, that she came intact with and has developed that so well.
I was born and raised in Norman. Yep. I didn't say that at the beginning because I just like to do my thing. But yeah, born and raised in Norman, came to Austin for school and never left. But I grew up on OU campus. So thanks so much for having me. It was really fun to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you. I put the evaluation links in the chat. Also, if you have questions about, how to access your evaluation links, there are some couple of surveys there. And